Welcome back to Fox Valley Today. I'm Meg Joray, your host. We're talking with Elizabeth Wheeler, who is a local author involved with the Yorkville Public Library's Author Fair that's happening this Saturday, and also two Newark High School students who are going to be involved as volunteer workers. And I'm going to talk to you guys now, Jasmine and Autumn. You've kind of been going through this process with the writing class, but has writing kind of always been something that's interested you?
Yeah, recently I've been cleaning my room and I went through all these boxes of like old writing, and like I've been writing for a long time. I don't think about it that I've been writing that long, but it's weird to like go back and see stuff you've written in the past. It's really cool. And
is this class, it's a dramatic writing class, is that right? And is this the first time that you've actually taken a class that's like specifically focused on that?
Well, no, me and Autumn took grammar and rhetoric last year, which was kind of like the same thing. Which is like more like speaking in front of an audience, but then again it was also writing, so it was both aspects.
Okay, and how about for you, Autumn? Was there something that originally kind of got you interested in writing or reading?
I mean, I think what really got me interested in was like 4th grade, we were assigned to write a story, and I wrote this long, scary story, like adding all movies I've seen that were scary, I like put them into it, and then I read it out to the entire class. Okay. And they were like, they really enjoyed it, and then I was like, wow, this made me feel really good about myself. I loved writing, and so ever since then.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how has it been having a teacher who's actually, you know, a writer, which is kind of neat. I think not many people can say that, but how has that really worked in the classroom and inspired you guys?
It's kind of amazing. I mean, just like, she acts so normal, but then you're also like, people think of her as famous or celebrity. I don't know.
She snickers in the background. Well, it's true though. You know, like you have a national audience, so and you guys get to experience her every day in the classroom. So I just imagine that being pretty cool to. Yeah. So have you gotten a lot of kind of tips that you would say like you might not have gotten from a teacher who doesn't have that experience?
Oh, definitely. I've actually had Miss Wheeler read a lot of my stuff, like probably forced it on her, but I'm just like, it's professional feedback you're getting for your writing, and that's something that most people don't get from an English teacher. So that's really awesome that I can have her read things and get feedback like that.
Right. Now, what sort of things are you, I mean, you're going to be kind of working this event, but I'm assuming you are going to probably have some time to talk to some authors and, you know, maybe listen to some of the workshops. So what sort of things are you kind of hoping that you'll be able to do through this event?
I guess just find out what it's like to be a successful and published author, because I mean that's both of our dreams, is to be able to do that. So we're in the beginning stage and they're kind of in the final stage, so just maybe the steps it takes to get there. Okay.
Pretty much the same thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be really awesome just to meet other authors and see how they got there and their steps and like where they started from.
Right, right. Now, do you pretty much work with the things, you've probably got a lot of homework and that sort of thing now. Do you feel like you have a lot of time for kind of just writing on your own and working on things outside of school?
Yeah, I do. I take every moment I can to try to like, maybe not write, but think about it, or like even when I listen to music, I mean, me and Autumn both like music a lot, so it's like listening to music can like provide inspiration for something that I'm working on, or, you know, just dwelling on the thought, dwelling on the characters is really awesome. I like doing that a lot.
Okay. Do you have any specific like projects that you like to work on as far as writing, or just kind of sit down and do it?
I don't know. Like when it comes to writing, I love writing, but I get distracted by everything else, and I am a huge procrastinator. But I've been working on a story, and I wrote the prologue. Jasmine read it. Okay. And it was really a rough draft, though, and I have to go back and rewrite it before I even show it to Mrs. Wheeler, because it was horrible, but now that I look at it. But yeah, I have a few projects in my mind I've been thinking about.
Okay. And how about for the class itself, the class that you're doing right now, what sort of projects have you been working on that you feel that have really given you, you know, some tools as a writer?
Well, right now we're working on monologues, which is really helping to understand your character, which is like, it's weird because you don't think that you know you think you know your character, but then you take deeper thought into it and you like ask yourself, what would they do in this situation, or what would they do in this situation? And it's like maybe you really don't know your character that well. So monologues really do help you understand your character on a certain level that I guess you have to find and not just know right off the top of your head.
Right. Libby, that reminds me of some of the ways that you've talked about the process and the character. So it looks like, what you've experienced, that, you're kind of translating into the classroom.
They do a great job of being able to develop the characters and then talk about the complexity of them. Jasmine infuses her work with historical elements, and so she tends to write things that are kind of romantic in nature, but also adventurous, and she creates book trailers for her work. She's very visual about the process. So that's an interesting approach that she takes. I've learned things from watching her process, just because it's a different genre than what I use. But she also has elements of surprise. Now Autumn, she's in theater as well, and so she does improv. And she's one of our really strong improvisational actors. So the twist, the unexpected turn for her is it's always present in anything she does, whether she's on the stage or she's writing things down. It's always this aspect of some turn that you didn't see coming at all, that was not preconceived. But she's witty because she can do that on the fly, whereas I have to think for a really long time before anything witty comes my way. But it's all about the complexity in the writing process, and they both have a knack for understanding the human condition and character development and the way plot affects those things. So they have such a stronger foundation than I had at that age. I don't know, I'm really impressed with them. And even though Autumn says she doesn't have the time to commit to it, I have to say they're both really committed to a lot of different aspects of what we do at Newark. So, athletes and drama and like all of these activities that they participate in, they're busy, but this matters to them. I think that sometimes it's just how you're wired, and they're both wired to think about character and think about the writing process and how it connects you to other people and brings elements that you care about to life. So I don't know, it's been really fun working with them.
I don't know if either of you would have anything to say about this, but it seems to me like even if you're not interested in becoming a writer yourself, the processes that you're going through just help you become a better reader, because you're not just reading it and like, oh, this is just what's happening, and you're not thinking about like somebody chose to make this happen and why did they do it this way? Why did they write it that way? Have you noticed that when you've been just reading on your own?
Yeah, you definitely look at things differently when you go through those processes as a writer, but when you read, you're like, I wonder what was behind that. What were they thinking when they wrote that? There's like I guess a deeper level of understanding. With you have like a kindred spirit with the author that wrote it. You're just like, oh, I get that, or I don't understand what they were doing there. Like, it's both ways, but it's really cool.
Have you ever had that where you think like, I would have not written it that way at all? This should not have happened.
I feel like with age and like your experiences in life, your mind matures, and so your writing matures as well. Because I look back at like a month ago, like what I wrote, and like, oh wow, and I can depict and critique it and find things that are wrong and change it and make it much better than the original.
Right. And Libby, I do want to say we've talked to you in the past about, you've had 2 books that have been published so far, and they're kind of the Asher trilogy. So we know there's a 3rd one coming. We've kind of had it hinted, but that is kind of announced for release.
Yes, in July. Asher's out in July. So yeah, that's the last book in the trilogy. I just received an email from my copy editor, because it's going through copy edits right now, so all the line edits and she said that she enjoyed the voice of Asher so much and the way he's developed and grown, because in the last book he really matures. Yeah. Even though it's the last 2 books are over the course of about 9 months. It's just 9 months straight through for the last 2, and it's but his perspective changes so much, and he revisits things that he saw in the first book and is able to understand them in a way, which reminds me of what you just said, Autumn, like that ability to get distance from something and to redefine it based on a new understanding, or I think that's a critical component to growing up. Well, and to being an adult too, to have that reflective component, to look back and to evaluate the moments in your life and not stick them in a box and think that it's just done and that's labeled that thing. I mean, we have new things to bring to our experiences as we age, and perspective and patience and I don't know, just all of that stuff. So she said that her favorite part about the last book was that she said she cried. Aww. Not because terrible things happened, but she cried because it so adequately captured that maturation, and you, I mean, you see Asher, I don't know, you see him kind of grow up.
Right.
So.
Was that hard for you the same way that a reader would have?
Bawled. Yeah. I was distraught. I sat down and cried for probably about an hour or two straight, and like wailing as though I had lost somebody when I wrote the last chapter. I have issues, but it was really hard to just say goodbye.
Right, so, right.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say, I don't, and this kind of ties into the publishing thing. Looking at, if you go to your website, you have the covers of the 2 books that are previous, and then the new cover coming out. And comparatively, you know, the first 2, Asher, you know, assuming it's Asher on the front, Asher, he's kind of curled over in the first 2, like, you know, thinking or praying, or, you know, just kind of, I don't know, but he's sort of within himself. And this last one, the cover, he's, you know, he's up straight. You're kind of seeing him this way for the first time, and it made me think like this is him coming into his own type of thing. Yes. Did you have, you mentioned you know, you don't always have the control when you're working with the publisher. Did you have any say on the artwork done for the books?
I struggled, yes, I did. But I struggled, the last cover was so hard to do. Was so hard because I had 2 different choices. And there was one that I thought was really beautiful, but I didn't know how the story ended. Oh, I was still writing it, and you have to make that choice early on. So I didn't know how the story ended, and I was afraid that it wasn't going to end in the way that would make that cover work.
Makes sense.
And I didn't want to give anything away.
Right.
And so I made the choice on the cover we have now, and then about 2 months later, I'm like, I think I made a mistake in the cover.
Oh no.
And I went back to it again, and then I reconsidered it again. I'm like, no, let's stick with this cover. So I think I made the right choice, but it's one of those things that I really thought a lot about. Well, they asked my opinion, but there comes a point in time where you have to just like let it go.
Right.
Yeah. And I've asked the students to contribute to that too. So like the book on the second cover, the students in my creative writing class actually like voted. They're like, oh, we like this one, and this is why. So.
And that's the one that ended up being the cover?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That's so cool that you guys have had that kind of collaboration to be a part of that process, even just those small little choices that. So I think that's all going to kind of wrap up into the author fair that's going to be happening, and getting to see kind of the steps along the way and the whole process, and people who have been successful in doing it, and really just an exciting event. I think it's going to be really cool, and kind of the first big thing that Yorkville has done like this, right?
They've never had an author's fair before. This is the very first time. I hope it'll be a continual thing, because it's certainly, we have a lovely building, we have a lovely town. I'd love for authors to get a chance to experience more of that, and to bring the readers in too. So,
absolutely. Yeah. We should mention the Yorkville Public Library on Game Farm Road. There's construction going on right now, so Game Farm is closed at Route 34. So if you are going to head out to the event, make sure that you enter through the Route 47 and Salmonock Road crossing, get there that way. But then, you know, parking and everything, I'm assuming, is all going to be the same. That's not affected by the construction at this point. So, right. All right, great. The event again for this Saturday, if you want to just run through the details real quick.
This Saturday, the 28th, from 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock. Come on out and meet some authors and hear some readings and enjoy the literary wonder, whatever. Awesome. And all the panels, and everything's free, so it's a lot of fun.
Sure. Well, excited to have you guys out and hear more about it. Elizabeth Wheeler, local author, who is going to be attending and participating and speaking, and Jasmine Mitchell, who is going to be a student volunteer there, as well as Autumn Bolte. Thank you guys both for coming out today.
Thank you.
All right, and thanks for coming again, Libby.
Sure.
It's great to get a little update, and stay tuned for more on Fox Valley Today. We'll see you next time.